Okay, thanks everybody for being here. Let me adjust this. My Facebook people need to show up, but that Facebook algorithm is not letting them know that this thing is going on. So you gotta just invite your own Facebook people and tell them to come. Let's see. We had a huge number last time, but anyway, great to see you guys. I wonder if are those lights behind me too bright? Let's put this down a little bit. Let's see. Do I want to enable HQ video? I don't know. Let's see. Do I? It doesn't seem like it made any difference to me. Okay, let me just, I'm just going to get a bottle of water. Be right back. Okay, and Gigi Bowman is dead wrong. That song that they played just now, when Ian Chaffee asked me at one time, what song would I like to be introduced by at LibertyFest last year, I said Siberian Khatru by Yes, because it's got a really good riff at the beginning. And so it's really great that he remembered that a year later and played that for me. And yes, you have to have really good taste in music to like that. So, all right, let's get chit-chatting here. Let's see. Yeah, and anyway, the HQ thing, they gave me like a 3-second trial, and now I'm back without it. Okay. Oh, you actually saw Yes live. Okay, well, so have I, but only since 1988. Okay. Law of supply as an application of the law of marginal utility. I can do that, but I wonder if that's a little technical for tonight. I actually do that in, I think I do it in my book, The Church and the Market. But basically, the idea is that the law of marginal utility says that you have a bunch of units of a homogeneous good, and as you acquire additional units, you derive less and less utility with each succeeding unit, because with every additional unit, you're placing the additional units to less and less urgently needed ends. So the same thing would go for supply. It goes for demand. For example, I have 4 units of water. The 5th unit that I acquire is going to give me less utility because I'm going to put it to some stupid use, like washing my car with it. The 1st unit is going to give me tremendous utility because I'm going to use it to drink and stay alive with. And so the law of demand basically comes from that if you're going to sell me more and more of a product, you're going to have to offer me a lower and lower price because I'm going to be less and less interested in buying additional units. Same thing goes with supply in the other direction, that a supplier's got a gazillion units of something. As he unloads them, and as he has fewer and fewer of those units left, the marginal utility of those units increases for him, such that he may even have some use value for those units. But most of the time, most suppliers bring a stock of a good to market, and they just want to unload it. They have no use for the units themselves, and so usually the supply curve is vertical at a given moment in time. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gone on so long on that. I just said I wasn't going to do it. Okay, let's see. Can I get a Year of Liberty classroom as a gift because you love your fans? I feel like it already is a gift, right? We just added our 6th course for the same price. We got another one coming. We got the Constitution coming before the end of the year. We got Keynesianism coming. It's just awesome. Okay, what book do I currently recommend to read? Books do I currently recommend to read? Well, what I'll do is I'll link you to. Let's see. Can somebody click on this and see if this link works? Somebody asked me what are good books that I would recommend to get you on your way with all this stuff, or books that influence me. And so that link, tomwoods.com/goodbooks, I think works. My, my 9-year-old here is supposed to be probably in bed by now, and so she just wrote me this little note, says hi, but she doesn't want to be on camera. Okay, can you please say more about the the Fed people that don't get it? Okay, well, I don't know. I feel like I will be saying more about that in the coming days. I've just been busy. I've got 2 events coming up, including LibertyFest. And I have an event in Albuquerque Friday, and so I had that going on. Then I had to answer this Huffington Post thing, 11 myths. My wife's had some health problems, and so it's been a really crazy week. But I'm going to be answering those people in the coming weeks. I'll answer every one of those claims. But this is one of those things where I feel like I don't want to have a litmus test to say, well, well, I guess we do have a litmus test. Like if you're pro-war, you're not part of this movement, right? That's it. We can admit a diversity of views on some things. That's fine. We're not a cult. But I think on some things, like if you just have completely crankish monetary views, or you think the world can operate, without interest or something, I don't know. I think you're on the borderline there. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Is the Fed responsible for the large size of the financial sector? Yeah, I think the financial sector is artificially bloated as compared to where it would be in an unhampered market economy. Are you heading downstairs now? Okay, let me say goodnight to my little Regina before she goes to bed. All right, I'll see you in the morning. And then I hope you have a great time with Grandma. Okay. Yeah, I know, but I won't be around. Yeah, okay. All right. Let's see. How would electronic banking work under a gold standard? I'm not totally sure I understand. You mean like how would ATMs work, or how would a debit card work? I don't think much differently from how it does now. You would just debit a gold account, and then the banks would just net out whatever the difference is at the end of the day, so that banks wouldn't be physically lugging gold from one place to another. They would just do a net of the exchange and then just ship that small amount. But I think it actually would be. I think a lot of the institutions that we're familiar with would be quite similar to what people use now. I don't think it would be some alien thing to most people. Am I going to see Atlas Shrugged this weekend? No, only because I'm busy this weekend. I've got LibertyFest coming up, and then Sunday I have to be on a plane to head back here. So I'll see it at some point. Was Barry Goldwater a libertarian? I think by and large, with the exception of foreign policy, he was a libertarian. And then as time went on, I don't know. I'm not really sure. But if you read the Conscience of a Conservative, which was, of course, ghostwritten, it really does have libertarian themes. Like, for example, his opposition to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 had nothing whatsoever to do with racial animus, which is normally what people say. Anybody who knew him knew that he had no feelings of racial discrimination whatsoever. It was entirely the libertarian argument of non-aggression that motivated him, and he stood to gain nothing from that stance, nothing but ridicule and condemnation and a landslide loss to, of all people, that bum Lyndon Johnson. So I think that does speak well for him, and so I wouldn't just dismiss him altogether. Am I an anarcho-capitalist? Well, what I'll recommend you do, I'll answer yes, but there are two videos you might like. There's one of me talking about this with Doug Casey on PBS, and that's a video called Is Limited Government an Oxymoron? But then also if you go to my website, tomwoods.com, and you listen to somebody, actually, I don't know who it is, some mystery person, recorded the whole Peter Schiff show from yesterday. I hosted the last 2 days. And he recorded the whole show and put it up there. And somebody called in and actually asked me this question, and I dealt with it right there on the air. So if you go to tomwoods.com, one of the first few blog posts is yesterday's show, if that interests you. Okay. What are a few books you would recommend anyone read to be a better writer? That's an excellent question. I would strongly discourage people to read a book for the purpose of becoming a better writer. I think being a better writer is something that you just learn through practice and through reading people who are themselves good writers. Anything that tries to recommend rules to me, it's like people saying to me, what about Toastmasters? Yes, I recommend Toastmasters to people. I don't know anything about it other than it's had a lot of success and people do very well with it. But for me, it would be a waste of time to do Toastmasters because I don't want to learn mechanical advice about how to do public speaking because I already do it. And likewise, I don't want to learn mechanical advice. This is how you write. This is how you make an argument, because I just do it on instinct. And eventually it comes to you when you just read good people. So who would good people be to read who write beautifully? Because the idea is that you read and you internalize the good writing so that you recognize bad writing in your own writing. And you can improve by just thinking to yourself, well, gee, H.L. Mencken wouldn't have written this crummy pedestrian sentence that I just wrote down, so why should I? So Murray Rothbard used to say, if you want to become a better writer, read H.L. Mencken. And you just become envious of this guy's prose. Joseph Sobran, who died a couple of years ago, who wrote for National Review for many years back when it was sort of readable, is another example of somebody with such a command of the English language that I'm just envious reading him. Somebody like that. But, I mean, you pretty much know good writing when you see it. And when you find it, just keep reading stuff by that person, and you will see improvement in your own writing. But practice, practice, practice. Okay, I'm sorry that I'm not getting to your question. It's not that I'm ignoring you, but I'm looking right at the camera while I'm talking, and I'm missing everything that's scrolling up. So I'm just looking down at this. What's going on with the secret Gary North plan for Bob Murphy? Well, Bob finally has some free time now, and I expect him to start executing this plan. He has been working with one of the guys from Blimey Cow. If you don't know Blimey Cow, they are great. They're a comedy team that just made an awesome ad for me for LibertyClassroom.com, and they live in Nashville, right where Bob lives. They didn't even realize that. So they know all about cameras and audio, and so they're going to be able to help him. They just want to contribute to the cause, so they are wonderful people. So I expect this to be executed very shortly. Do I favor hard money, no expansion in the money supply? I favor free marketed money, and so the money supply would adjust according to the demands of the market. So if, let's say, production of other non-monetary goods becomes so great that the ratio of non-monetary goods to money is so high that the money is so valuable that it becomes impractical to use. Like if all your coins, each one of them was worth $20,000, it would be impractical. In other words, you'd have to have a coin that would be like one atom in order to be able to buy a loaf of bread. Well, then there would be, because the money would be so valuable, then there would be an incentive to produce more money. The same way there's an incentive to produce anything when it becomes more valuable. And then as entrepreneurs bid up the resources necessary to produce more money, that squeezes their profit margin. And so they will produce money up to that point at which they reach the socially optimal level, just as with the production of anything else. And so you wouldn't say that money would be just not produced anymore, but it would be produced in response to changing conditions, basically. It's hard to explain this in a short form, so I recommend, in fact, let me just call it up for you right now. Let me recommend this unbelievable essay. It's the testimony of Professor Jeff Herbener, my favorite living Austrian economist, at Ron Paul's Monetary Committee hearing. And it is the most hardcore, uncompromising thing you have ever seen in your life, and you cannot believe that this thing was actually published in, or was delivered in testimony. Paste. There we go. But it won't paste. It just gives me this stupid. All right. Can somebody look for this? Can somebody just? I don't know why. When I try to do right click, I'm getting options that I don't even want. So I can't seem to do it. Oh, thank you. Control V. There you go. Sorry for being a dope. Can I see if that link works? I don't know. See if that link works. Anyway, yeah, look for killer summary. Okay. All right. So check that out. How much do I bench press? Well, I don't. Okay. I have a really great Bowflex system downstairs, but I just don't have the time to use it these days. And also, we're doing construction in that room, and so I can't even get in there. So anyway, I mean to do it. Okay. How do I raise kids using the non-aggression principle? Well, let me say this. You know, I'll be written out of the movement by some people for this, but I don't think it's bad or unlibertarian to spank a child. So, sorry, I don't buy that at all. I've a principle to areas where it just doesn't belong. Also, in my universal experience, the kids who are being raised this way are the ones who terrorize my kids. Universally, without fail, these are the people who terrorize my sweet, well-behaved, wonderful kids who get praised by everybody. We go out to a restaurant or whatever, the whole staff is praising them, everybody's praising them because they're wonderful, they're funny, they're sweet, they're fun to be around. And but yet they are terrorized by the Montessori or just let them unfold as they will school of thought. sorry, but I find that in my experience, maybe that's not universal. Maybe you have wonderful children that you've raised this way. But in my experience, they wind up being self-centered beasts. That's just my experience. Okay. Right, of course yeah. I mean, this is not like, it is used extremely sparingly. And again, we have good kids, I hardly need to. How do this is all going too fast. When am I going to run for office? Never. In a free society, is there an incentive for free banks to become full reserve banks? Well, there are two simultaneous incentives. Number one, there's an incentive for the free banks, and by free banks we mean banks that operate under normal laws of commerce and contract like any other firm. There's an incentive for them to band together and look to the creation of a central bank. There's a huge incentive for that because it makes it easier for them to pull off their scam if they have a central bank overseeing it. But at the same time, if they can't get that, then I do believe there's an incentive for high reserves because if one bank inflates excessively then and produces its banknotes, and then these banknotes get brought to another bank, that other bank doesn't want to hold on to its notes. It's going to go and present them to that bank for redemption, and then the whole thing gets shut down. So there's a strong incentive to be cautious. And then also there's the argument by Jesus Huerta de Soto from Madrid, who actually looked back in the history, and he says going back to ancient Rome, and of course we look to ancient Rome for much of our legal thinking even today, there was a distinction made even then between something that I give you for a time and you have full use over it during that time, on the one hand, and on the other hand, a full deposit where I'm just simply giving you something to hold for me, and I can get it anytime I want to. There was a distinction made between these two things, and it was unlawful for an institution to conflate these two. So today that would be to say that there would be recognized a distinction between a demand deposit that I can come and get anytime I want, and a time deposit, like a CD for 6 months, and I know that for 6 months I can't get the full value of that thing back. That would be legitimate, whereas it's hard to reconcile with the idea of private property, that there could be multiple claims on a single piece of property. How could that be? Like we couldn't say that I have complete 24-hour-a-day access to this automobile, but so do 7 other people. Well, if those people are using it, then how could I have access to it? Okay, did I like what Rand Paul said about military spending today? I only saw the headlines. I had to pick up the kids, and then I had to unexpectedly fill in for Peter's shift briefly this morning. It was just totally crazy. I just read the headlines, but if the headlines are accurate, I was glad to hear that. And it's I certainly was dead set against the Romney endorsement by Rand, but on the other hand, I give credit where it's due. It takes some courage to stand up against the actual nominee when it's just the election's a month away. I mean, you're going to get a lot of heat for that. So I appreciate that. How do I feel about Monsanto? I don't know enough to answer that question. I know enough. I know that a lot of people that I respect very much in this movement are suspicious of it and hold it in very low regard, but not knowing enough about it firsthand or not having read much about it, I don't want to speak out of ignorance. What's the topic of my speech at LibertyFest this Saturday? I'll try and keep to the theme of what's going to happen now. I'm still kind of mulling it over in my head. I might have a few drinks beforehand, and then we'll see what I say. Do I have a steady job? Or do you make income from all these odd jobs? Well, I do some public speaking. I have some royalty revenue from books. I have a wife who just walked in the door, but she doesn't earn income. Let's see, what the other things I do writing for some outlets that pay. I do other consulting work in the private sector that pays. I have LibertyClassroom.com where I participate in the discussion forums there, and I've got lecture series and stuff. But you put all this together, and I'm all right. I'm doing okay. Thank you. No, Heather can't be at Liberty Fest. Unfortunately, she needs to rest. She was at Paul Festival, however, which was where all the cool people were. Okay, if Lincoln was against the Mexican War, what happened during the Civil War? Well, first of all, Lincoln on the Mexican War really gave. He was really great, and we excerpt one of his speeches actually uh, in um, in that book that I did with Murray Palmer, We Who Dared to Say No to War, and it's an absolutely great anti-war speech. Um, but when it comes to the Civil War, he would view that as being something different because he would say that in the Mexican War there was an unjustified war on a sovereign nation that in his judgment, just the cause of the war was not just didn't justify war. It was not sufficient, the rationale given. But with the Civil War, he would say that this is not a legitimate. Mexico was a separate country, and it hadn't harmed us, and you got to leave it alone. But his view was that the southern states are not a separate country, and they are harming the integrity of the Union by withdrawing. And part of that is that the logic of the Southern secession, Lincoln believed, is that if we let the southern states secede, then what's next? Other states, counties might start seceding, individuals could start seceding. So he had this whole rationale about how everything could fall apart if we don't. I mean, he was a nationalist basically, so he believed that it was a catastrophe and a philosophical absurdity to even conceive of secession, and so it simply had to be stopped. So he would say it's basically two different things. Okay, the newborn children question you'd have to ask Walter Block. I haven't given it enough thought. I mean, I could bloviate about it for a few minutes, but if you want somebody who's actually really thought it out, you could ask Walter. But I don't really agree with Walter necessarily always on that stuff. So I think the guy was really good on it, and I link to him on my blog. And my blog roll, if you scroll all the way down, I have a blog roll, is my friend Jakub Wisniewski, who's actually debated this. Jakub Wisniewski's debated this with Walter. So you can click on his blog and look around. You'll probably find some interesting links. What obligations do individuals have to society? Well, it depends. What is the definition of society? I define society the way Rothbard would define it, and I think Mises would define it, that society is the sum total of voluntary interactions. So what do I owe to that? Well, for one thing, I should not derogate from this implicit understanding we have among each other that society involves voluntary interaction. And so I shouldn't commit violence against people, but also voluntary interaction involves honesty, because if you're going to make a dishonest claim about your product or service, and then I go ahead and I buy that product or service on the basis of that claim, and I engage in an exchange that I wouldn't have made otherwise if I had known the full truth, then you are not really abiding by the principles of society. So I think that is it. Now, I think you have a moral obligation. It has to be selectively applied so that you don't do more harm than good, but you do have a moral obligation to less fortunate people. But I have seen case after case after case of people whose situation actually worsens through charity. So you've got to be very, very careful. I have known people who have had attitudes of entitlement that have absolutely made them utterly dysfunctional, and it's hurt them. So you have to be careful, but you can always find deserving institutions and individuals. So that would basically be that. But it's interesting to note, by the way, that if we define society this way, then the state is not part of it. All right, let's see. Is there anything I disagree with Rothbard on? Yeah, I think his argument on abortion is pretty weak. So I disagree with him on that. But what else? In terms of political philosophy, I think he was correct. There are people who disagree with him on intellectual property. He was pro-copyright, anti-patent, but there have been some anti-copyright arguments that I think have some logical heft to them. What else? I think some of his once in a while, one of his historical judgments I disagree with. I think he is a little bit too anxious to find heroes in history sometimes. So I think he thinks the American colonists were more proto-anarchists than they really were. Now, some of them were, like early colonial Pennsylvania was in fact highly anarchistic. There's ample evidence for this, and it's so funny to hear the reports of William Penn sending his governing agents over to the colony, and they show up to the room where the assembly is supposed to be meeting, and it's just like dust everywhere, like giant balls of dust, like no one shows up. So there is that, but I would not say that all the people at the time of the American Revolution were all anarchists and they were against all types of government, because the way they behaved in the following 10 years, where they all wanted to loot for themselves, and I think belies that. But I mean, even to dwell on it to this degree exaggerates the degree of my difference with him, because really it's not that it's a cult and so whatever Rothbard says I've got to agree with it. It's that I start with the non-aggression principle the same way he does. So as long as he derives his views from that principle, then we're not going to diverge very much. Okay. Over under on national debt in 2016 under Romney, under Obama. I'm running out of time, so I don't know. I'd have to think that over. I don't know. Thoughts? Let's say Walter Williams and Thomas Sowell and their foreign policy positions. Well, they're wrong on this, of course, and it really surprises me that somebody as smart as Sowell adopts these dumb guy foreign policy positions. Given that, it doesn't surprise me that Sean Hannity, a guy with zero intellectual curiosity, takes these positions. But Sowell, no, I don't know. Oh my gosh, this is going too fast. The radio thing. Well, look, basically the long and the short of it is the same company that helps out Peter Schiff is helping out me, and they are exceedingly slow. We finally did a little test with the platform that we're going to be using, so that's at least some progress, but I'm as frustrated as anybody else on this. We're doing the best we can here. Any educational resources? Oh, yes, I am giving away the luncheon ticket. Okay, I'll do that in just a second. You're right. I didn't have time to prepare. Yes, I am. Hang on just a second, though. I want to scroll back for a second because I just saw. Okay, what should we expect? Okay, when inflation and debt finally drives us to collapse. Okay, well, first of all, I don't. I think there will be a fiscal collapse, but I don't think the society is going to collapse, or even the money will necessarily collapse. I think the Fed will ultimately stop doing what it's doing, and this will mean that the burden will now be on the Treasury to deal with the situation, which means there will be severe cuts. There will also be substantial inflation, but there won't necessarily be a hyperinflationary collapse. There are ways of preventing this. This can be stopped. Also, again, remember that we believe in the free market, right? We believe in individuals and the power of individuals to find each other and figure out what each other might want, and supplying those goods. Well, those things will be supplied on the black market one way or another. Like, we will scrape by even if the worst were to happen. We'll scrape by. I mean, there's a huge black market all over the world right now already. A huge proportion of the world's population is surviving in ways that in one way or another are running beneath the radar, below the radar of the state. And that's a great thing. So we'll have some tough times, but I don't think necessarily wolves will be running free in the streets and things of that nature. Okay, am I voting for president this time? No, I'm not. Okay, do I think derivatives create too much liquidity and instability in our markets? I don't think derivatives per se are a problem. I think cheap money is a problem, but like, for example, I don't think there's anything wrong with a credit default swap. I don't see how that violates property rights, and I think if all a credit default swap does is hasten something that's going to happen anyway, and if something's going to happen anyway, we may as well hasten it rather than make the damage all the worse. Whether it's a zombie firm or a zombie government, it's not a guarantee that credit default swaps can be just manipulated until governments are just brought down. That's not so. If governments can pay their bills, then that type of strategy is going to backfire on somebody who's trying to harm a government or an institution. No, I'm not voting for Gary Johnson. I like Gary Johnson, but my view, as I've said on this chat before, is that I want to support the hardcore wing of the Libertarian Party if I'm going to support anything at all. I don't want to support the fair tax wing of the party. I'm not interested in that. I'm just not. I mean, I'm glad that Gary Johnson's out there, and I'm probably going to cheer for him, and I probably hope that he does well. He's better than Bob Barr, but I want the Libertarian Party guy to be a good spokesman for libertarianism. To be, he doesn't have to be a genius. He doesn't have to have read every single book, but I want the libertarian guy to be like a hardcore libertarian guy. I mean, that's what. That's. I don't want the, well, I'll legalize this but not that, or I don't want this nuance, like we're running on the Republican Party ticket. I want a hardcore guy. So I'm not going to tell people not to vote for him. I'm not going to get in his way, but I'm not going to stand on the rooftop and cheer. Why do I not like the fair tax? Why do I not? Okay, let's leave aside the whole problem with taxation per se. I don't understand how anybody can look at this government and say, well, the most important thing is for us to shuffle around the way it expropriates us. Obviously, this doesn't work. The tax reform, they try this sort of thing all the time. It's always a scam. What we need is something to jolt this institution. And just shuffling around the way it collects taxes is not that thing. We need to abolish the income tax and then let this thing fend for itself. Not say, oh, no, don't worry, we'll come to your assistance. We'll figure out another way for you to expropriate the public. That is not the way we should be thinking. Like, oh, woe is me, the government is in dire straits with money. Good, it should be. Okay, let me go and, okay, let's see. Am I familiar with Guido Hulsmann's counterfactuals? Well, yeah, sure, I've cited his article on that. Okay, let me get the names of the people who are in this this raffle for the ticket to the I want to say MVP thing, VIP, the VIP luncheon. So hang on, the most exciting part of the whole night is coming up right now. If I can just see Ian's email to me. All right, here we go. So I'm going to get a piece of paper and then tear it up into a little bit. Don't anybody go anywhere. Don't you leave. If you people are leaving, I'm going to be deeply disappointed. All right. This is the most exciting thing in the world right here. Okay, I'm just going to put the initials on here to make this quick. Okay, you guys have all got a good chance here. Let me say while I'm doing this that I hope you guys can come see me. I've got some events coming up. As you know, Albuquerque on Friday. But then also I'm going to be at 2 Florida universities. I got University of Central Florida, October 24th, University of Florida, October 25th. Mises Institute event, October 26th in Georgia. And then November 2nd, finally, I get to Chicago after people have been telling me time and again I got to get to Chicago. So I'm doing it November 2nd, and it's going to be awesome. So I hope you can check those out. Now hang on, I'm going to put this in a hat. I don't really have a hat. Nobody wears hats anymore, so I don't have a hat. What I do have is a kitchen counter, or this is the island that I'm sitting in. So we're just going to mix them all up, mix them up. Let's see if I can get you guys back up and see you. Okay, all right. Okay, ready? Okay, now look, I can't see the chat window. I'm writing people's names down. I don't know exactly when the bubble film will be out, but early 2013, the absolute latest. Okay, nobody wears a hat. And well, I suppose the farmers might wear hats. Okay, here we go. Okay, I got to go back and look at the name because I only put initials, so let's see. Okay, here we go. The initials that I have chosen are, can you guys see this? TR, so it's Timothy, is it Ronigan? Is that how I'm pronouncing that? Is that correct? So that's the name. Okay, so Ian, did you catch that? I hope Ian is listening. Okay. Let's see. All right, good. All right, well, anyway, right? Is that good? Right? All right, so there you go. Yeah, it's not Teddy Roosevelt, right? That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Okay, yeah, must be present to win, right? If you're not here, okay, what am I doing in Georgia? Well, check out, it's the Mises Institute's 30th anniversary event. Ron Paul will be there, Judge Napolitano will be there. Here is my events page, and then also wait before you guys go, please. Before you go, don't leave. Hang on. Where's my email thing? All right, hang on just 1 second. hang on just 1 second. Don't anybody go anywhere. Hang on, just wait. Let's just link you to something. All right, here we go. Here's a link. And this way you won't ever have to worry about, hey, maybe Woods is in my area and I just didn't know about it. Well, let's see. We're going to do Control V. All right, that looks like a fake link, but it's not. I don't know why it's a tiny one. But I have a newsletter that I'm sending out. I just sent out it's snazzy. It's got graphics in it. It's got my calendar. It's awesome. I just sent out the first one a couple days ago. So click on that link or go to tomwoods.com and sign up there, and that'll be super. All right. Okay, good. Yeah, that's right. My resource pages. That's right. That's me. Okay, everybody. Well, I got to get rolling. I just realized I haven't eaten any dinner, and it's 10 o'clock where I am, and I'm pretty darn hungry, and I would like to go see my wife. So it's great talking to you guys. I'm sorry I'm always only able to get to a small fraction of these questions, but if you go to LibertyFest, you can talk my ear off within reason. But also, please, 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 people, please spread the word about LibertyFest this Saturday. Spread the word. Put it up on your Facebook, whatever you can do. Put it on your blog. Put it on your Twitter. Please, 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 please. The people doing this are the salt of the earth. They're wonderful people. They deserve a huge turnout. I really want to make that possible for them. So do what you can, and thanks, everybody. Good night.